Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Leveling Up Mental Health. My name is Adolyn H. I'm an actor and cognitive scientist.
My name is Andrew Nicholson, and I am a registered psychologist.
And together we are video game best friends.
Oh, good try.
I wanted to try something different.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
And we are joined with a special guest today, who is also a friend of ours, Mira Maschmeyer.
Yeah.
Who born and raised Calgarian, who is here to talk about their journey through mental health, living in Calgary, and cozy games.
Yes, the topic of cozy games and how that intersects with neurodivergence, which I think is a really interesting topic.
Yeah.
So let's not waste time. Let's get right to
jump
it.
to it.
Well, we're very excited to have our friend Mira Maschmeyer on the podcast today. Hello, Mira.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thanks.
Mira is a Calgary-based human, actor, friend, mental health experiencer, and video game player.
Yeah.
And also someone who's worked in the mental health field for quite a bit of time.
Yeah, I forgot that. Yeah.
That's probably an
I
important
forget
part.
about that sometimes. That is an important part. I am a mental health professional of some degree.
With
Yeah.
quite a lot of experience.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, tell us a bit more in more detail, better than I have done, who you are, why you're here, and let people know who you are.
My name is Mira. My pronouns are she, they, just to be inclusive. And I have a mental health. Yes, I have I've racked up so many diagnoses at this point.
Those letters, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, they look good after a name.
It's true.
They're like degree credentials nowadays.
Exactly.
You know?
Like,
Yeah, sign your email. with it.
MSc, PMP, ADHD.
exactly. The DSM wishes she were me. You know? But the ones that I currently identify with are ADHD, as we've talked about, which is autism spectrum disorder, and attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder. I always forget what it stands for.
I know,
Do you
me
ever
too.
We all just
forget?
use the acronym.
Yeah.
I just like saying ADHD.
I say ADHD
Yeah.
so often that I forget that it's actually an acronym.
It's
for
also
something.
kind of like my initials, like Adolyn H. Dar.
I know, I
So
love
just,
that
yeah,
so
so I
much.
just like
You just
ADHD.
fused
I
it
am.
into
I
your-
am.
Yeah.
It's been
it.
the
I was
ADHD
destined to be this.
in
Yeah.
ADHD.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
True.
That's so good.
Yeah.
And generalized anxiety disorder as well. But I don't know. The person who assessed me for my autism diagnosis, we talked about sort of this weird mental health soup that exists in my brain, in the sense of, you know, being someone with these sort of neurodevelopmental disorders with autism and ADHD, and experiencing life in a world that was not really created for me. Is the generalized anxiety disorder because of that? You know what I mean? Would it exist without those conditions? But I don't know. Does anxiety exist without those conditions for anyone? Right? Like it asks a lot of questions. But and then I guess depression as well. But is it symptomatic of those, or is it like the actual?
Yeah, I often
root
talk
of
to
it,
clients
right?
about like is anxiety and depression, because they can be so generalized,
Right,
literally
yeah,
generalized anxiety disorder.
generalized, yeah.
Is it secondary to something else? Which
Yeah.
I think
Exactly.
often it is, not always, but often
Yeah.
it is. Yeah.
And there are, I don't know, we skirted around. There's some presentations of, you know, complex PTSD as well. And then again, it's like, yes, but one could argue that living as a neurodivergent person in a neurotypical world is a bit of a traumatic experience, right? And sets oneself up for experiencing trauma in a really wonderful way. And then I think there's also research pointing to, like, especially autistic people, but neurodivergent people in general, being more likely to experience an event as traumatic, or to develop PTSD as a result of said event, just because of how our brains are organized. So yeah, it's a mess. in there. Yeah.
I liked your word soup. That's good.
Thank
Mental
you.
health
Yeah,
soup.
it's like a little like they're all sort of playing with each other and
different flavors.
influencing
Yeah,
each
there's some
other.
veggies in
and-
there.
Yeah,
So-
exactly. But specific ones because I am autistic. So
Right.
yeah.
Okay, yes, you're right.
So you're talking about systemic reasons why some of these diagnoses have presented themselves.
Yeah,
And you grew up in Calgary.
I did.
Do you feel like there are certain things in Calgary that are, let's talk about both pros and cons, built towards positive mental health? There's some things growing up here that may be great and some things that may be not so great and that may not be so conducive to people with different mental health challenges.
I think it's a really interesting question because I have also lived in places that aren't Calgary,
Right.
as you know.
Yeah.
And so, and even in terms of growing up here, I still lived in different places, right? Like Calgary's always been home base, but I have spent my entire life sort of going back and forth between Calgary and other places. So I have been able to sort of, I guess, bounce my mental health off of these different places. And I have ended up in Calgary again now for probably the longest that I've been in Calgary since I was like a kid. Like, cause I spent years like born to 6 years old here before we first moved. And it's been almost 6 years since I've been back in Calgary. So like we'll be, back at the longest that I've ever spent here. And I think that there are reasons for that do speak to my ADHD. And I think Calgary's a really easy city to live in. I think for anyone, but especially for me, like I think I know what to expect. I know what I'm getting from sort of the autistic side of me. And there's a lot about it that it isn't difficult. Like I will say that living in New York City, for example, or somewhere like Vancouver, a bigger city, metropolitan city, things were difficult. Like going to a grocery store is a more difficult experience there in terms of like, you know, if you're driving, finding parking. If you're not driving, how are you getting everything home? And like a grocery store is already a pretty awful experience for me.
It's awful. for
Sensorily
everybody.
speaking. And so if we're going to add these sort of extra complications around it, you know, here I can just drive to Superstore and there's a big parking lot and I can go park wherever is best for me. And the aisles are wide and I'm not bumping into people as much. And there are things about that. Like, and I think that's just one example in terms of the way that like living in Calgary is like very easy, though it is massively understimulating, which is a problem for me that I have to sort of balance out. And that is the ADHD side of me, right? They are in constant conflict and yet also informing each other, amplifying each other, masking each other in certain ways, right? The interplay is a lot.
I don't think I've resonated so much with
Really?
Well, I never thought about it like that. Like how urban design connects to
Yeah.
our mental health.
Yeah.
But I've also lived in so many places like
You have.
Vancouver,
Yeah.
Toronto.
Similar
I've been to
places,
New
yeah.
York. And I feel the same way. Like and now that you say it, I'm like, oh yeah, there's a reason why I'm here
like,
right now.
attracted to
Because
those.
and it's like to be able to get in your car and know where you're going to park seems like such a luxury. But in
really good
Toronto, you
point.
can't do that. You're like, oh, I've got to bake in an extra half hour because I'm probably
Yeah.
gonna be circling the streets and then I have to parallel while there's people honking behind me. And as someone who's also neurodivergent, it's so stressful.
A lot of autistic people don't drive.
Yeah.
And I think that had I known about myself that I was autistic and hadn't been trying to like overcompensate massively for everything that I thought was wrong with me throughout my life, I don't think that I would have even gotten my license. Like I feel like I beat myself into doing that. And so driving is extremely anxiety ridden for me. And I in my unmasking journey have tried to start driving less, which is an issue in Calgary because
It is a driving
Yeah.
city.
it is a driving
Yeah,
city.
yeah.
And you do have to do that. So while it is easy to live in, there's that, right? However, if I'm going to be driving anywhere, it's here. Like
Right.
Yeah.
driving in Vancouver, nightmare.
I know.
I
know.
drove in New York City once and like I
Brave.
was not
No,
okay.
no.
I was not okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking in video game terms, driving in New York is like extreme mode.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hardcore.
It's the hardest.
You got one
difficulty
life.
you can
It is.
have.
Yeah. It's-
hardest
that's
difficulty.
it. You know.
Yeah.
I find
Yeah.
even driving in Toronto.
Oh, Toronto's like
Oh,
very
Toronto's
difficult.
awful.
Coming back to
Yeah.
Calgary, easy mode. People are waving at you.
Exactly.
People let you in. You have nice big roads. I'm like, this is so easy. I could fall asleep and still get to my destination alive.
And I feel like I've hit like a really good balance with living in downtown Calgary because I don't have to drive as much. It is very walkable in a way that, you know, some of the suburban neighborhoods aren't necessarily.
Right.
So there is a lot within walking distance and I don't have to drive as much. So that is nice that I'm kind of found like a little bit of, and with downtown comes a little bit more stimulation, a little bit more excitement, because that is something that I really miss about living in places like New York and Vancouver is the vibe, the energy that I think really feeds the dopamine in my brain that is like so desperately missing. And in Calgary, it gets very understimulating. I have to get really careful about that aspect of it. So
that's where video games come in.
That is where video genuinely. So I've been seeing.
That was good.
I've been seeing a counselor who specializes in ADHD, and it was my homework to play more video games.
Oh, really?
From my last session.
Nice. Well, obviously this is a podcast that talks about video games and mental health and how they overlap. So tell us a little bit about video games. What video games do you enjoy? What video games have been a part of your journey? And then we'll kind of launch off from there.
So I'm what they refer to, or I identify as, I suppose, a cozy gamer. I like to play cozy games, which are, I think, hard to define, but like it can be like a personal thing for people. Essentially, it boils down to like what games make you feel like cozy and relaxed and serene versus perhaps like, I don't know, amped up on
Dark
edge.
Souls.
Yeah. See, I
Call
don't
of Duty.
see, and so I don't like that feeling at all. So any video games where there is some sort of like fighting or you got to do something on like a time limit, or there's some sort of like competitive aspect to it, immediate fight or flight. Like she's engaged, and I am not enjoying myself. And I watch my partner play video games, and he gets like so stressed about it. And like afterwards, I feel like I want to be like, "Are you okay?" Like, and he's like, "This game's amazing." Like, I'm sitting here being like, "Oh, he's never gonna play this again," right? Because that would be my reaction.
Yeah, for you, that's a terrible experience to feel.
Correct.
That. Yeah.
If I'm like, I have to do like a battle or something, and I lose that battle, and now I got to like start over or something, like, I'm out. That's it for me.
Do you feel that feeling more intensely than somebody else, like somebody neurotypical playing a game, or is it that feeling
potentially
affects you differently? I mean, I know
I think it's that it affects me differently because I obviously don't want to speak for like all ADHD people either, right? Like we exist on this lovely spectrum that encompasses so many different people, and I believe that like video games, like, and those types of video games can be like a special interest for people who have the same diagnoses that I have. So I want to be careful about speaking about it that way. But like in terms of how it shows up for me, I do think that it is related to a sense of overstimulation for sure. Especially that like time limit thing. ADHD, time is a very loose concept and a very stressful concept. It's an abstract concept, and it's a very stressful concept for me to have to live in a world that is so time focused. So you put a time limit on me and I shut all the way down. Even like in an exam situation, it's like you have 3 hours. That's so much time. I'm really smart. I don't need 3 hours. And yet now my brain is like, we can't do it. We can't think.
Disengage.
We've got lots of time. Wait a minute. 60 questions, 10 minutes. I got this.
Yeah. But if I just had all of the time in the world, like I would be done so fast, right? Like,
yeah. So I used to get accommodations when I was in university to not just get more time, but ask so I can take little breaks.
Yeah.
Because I would get bored really quickly of the questions. They're like, oh yeah. And then I would need to do something else. And I was like, I had a separate exam room for accommodations. They're like, yeah, you can just go for a walk.
Yeah.
It was still within the facility. Don't worry, cameras are on me. I wasn't cheating, but I don't need to. Yeah, I know.
Well,
but like I needed it,
yeah.
and or like they gave me a little squeeze ball thing, so I can just like kind of play around. And some people got like Lego
I
blocks.
should have brought a fidget. What was I thinking?
I know.
It's in my purse, and then I was like, I'm not gonna bring my purse today. I could have brought it. When you say get bored, I think that's actually another piece that plays into it. I get so overstimulated by the activity of having to do something within a time frame, or like maybe not necessarily within a time frame, but you know how like in a game, you're going to suffer a certain amount of damage or something, right? Like, so like there is a time limit in the sense of like, you got to kill this guy before he kills you or something. So there is like some sort of like pressurized situation.
Yeah.
And my dexterity is not amazing. I have like, and I think that is partly one of the physical symptoms that I experience with my neurodivergencies is that my reaction time, my fine motor control, she's not there. And so in video games, it's like I can overcompensate a bit, but like I do think that there's a lot of overcompensation that's going into it that is like quite exhausting. But then also I'm like never going to be at a point where like I'm going to be really mastering this. So like I have to kind of stay on like the easier levels in order to like be able to see any action. And then it's like, okay, like now I'm bored.
Oh, there's like
you know what I mean?
There's no in between.
I can't like there's a certain amount that I can kind of get to.
Yeah.
And then after that, I just can't do it. And then I also get bored because there's no reward, right?
Yeah, it's almost like they need to let you customize the settings.
Like a more nuanced difficulty, different sliders.
Not just like, exactly.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So like I won't progress in the game essentially, right? As well, like because the game is designed to get more and more difficult as time goes on.
Right.
I was like the one game that I've tried. We're allowed to talk about games.
We can talk about games. Yeah.
So Corey had suggested a game that for him is a cozy game. Corey, my partner, I should specify. You're my friend, so you know. Shout out, Corey, love you. He suggested Bug Fables because that's a game that feels kind of cozy for him. And it's these little bugs, and they're going through their little adventures, and they have to go find things in their little world to please the queen ant and stuff like that, right? And like, I'm like, in theory, that's like cute, and there's like puzzles and things, which I do love a puzzle, just not on a time limit. And he was like, you should give this one a try, and I got to a point where it was just like, this is like outpaced the amount of like difficulty where if I really gave it 100% and like really tried and really focused and like kept coming back to it, I probably could have kept going. But because I wasn't getting that like immediate reward, I'm out. Like, I'm done.
It sounds like by giving 100%, there would also be a cost to you as well.
There is a cost.
Yeah.
This isn't my idea of how I want to spend my like relaxation
I
time.
could do it.
Yeah.
Is like overcompensating for things that don't come naturally to me to try to maybe get a dopamine at the end. That's probably not coming, you know? So I tap out.
Yeah.
You know, I never finished it.
Which I think is an important piece because, you know, for other people who maybe don't experience this, maybe aren't neurodivergent, they might think about, cost benefit ratio of playing games is just, they might think of it as time. Oh, I could use time for something else. Yeah. Or I think that would maybe be the main one. Whereas there's a cost benefit of like emotional investment and overstimulation. And like, there's all these other pieces that sound like they come together for you that you have to then be very choosy as to which games fit and which games don't. So what are, I know you were saying before we started filming, you tried to play the cool games growing up.
I did.
Like,
try
what
to
are
play
some
the
of them
cool
that you
games
tried and didn't work? Or
so one of the ones that was always played at birthday parties when I was a kid was Nintendo GameCube, Super Smash Bros.
Oh yeah, classic.
And so I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna get a GameCube." Asked the parents for a GameCube, got one for Christmas, and I was like, "I'm gonna do it. Like, I'm gonna master this game. Like, I'm gonna be so cool at parties, right? Like, and I think too, there was a sense of, especially I think in our generation, you know, girls like didn't video game or whatever, right? So like, and I very much so, as a way of like, I think kind of leaning into my neurodivergence that I didn't know was there yet, would sort of use the I'm not like other girls thing to be a way to explain why I was different. And so then anything that like was kind of tomboy-y, right? But that like kind of made a girl cool, I would want to be good at, because then, you know, maybe the boys would like me because I was not like other girls, right? Which like now I very much so am like other girls, and I think other girls are awesome. Shout out other girls. But that was
what an arc. What a character arc you went on.
It was I suppose like a defense mechanism at the time of like, you know, this is I'm just weird and different, and so like I have to be good at all of the things that other girls that are weird and different are good at, right? And then that can somehow make me valuable instead of just weird, right? And like video games were something that boys liked, so if I was good at those, then they wouldn't think that I was weird. A lot of my bullying when I was a kid actually came from boys first and foremost, and so I was very concerned as to how do I make myself the least of a target for them, right? So like if I was a cool girl that played video games, maybe they wouldn't be awful to me, right? Or maybe be like, oh, she's weird and different.
Let's not bully her.
Let's not bully her, because one of those things that makes her weird and different is that she plays video games and we like those, right?
That's cool.
The so logic probably wasn't there. I think if I was good at video games, I still would have gotten bullied regardless. But you know, you're grasping at straws.
Yeah, you're a kid. You know? You're trying to do anything you can to
You had a theory. Yeah.
I had a theory, right? So I was going for it. It was never going to work. But
did you become a master of Smash Bros?
No, because like it's not there. Like
did
the
you
skill
focus
set
on any
is
character?
Not there. No, that would have probably been smart. But yeah.
Let's criticize her Smash Bros.
I was just wondering if she had a favorite Smash Bros.
Let's really unpack why this didn't work.
I didn't because it was such a stressful experience, Adolyn. Because people would ask me like, "Oh, who's your favorite character to play?" I was like, I deeply don't enjoy this, so there is no favorite part of this.
Nothing about this I enjoy.
But I would spend hours doing it because I was just trying to be. Because I was just trying to be like the other kids. Yeah. You know.
Have you done anything for hours just to try to be cool? I'm trying to think of. I've done things like that to fit in or to learn.
Yeah. I'm sure I have. Yeah. I'm trying to think off the top of my head.
I will say I think it's a bit of a neurodivergent experience.
Well, I think sports was one of those things for me.
Yeah.
Where I was like, oh, I notice people like me when I'm better at sports. So then I got to get really good at soccer.
I had a sporty face.
Yeah, right?
I was not good at it.
Or music was a big one for me, where I was like, because I didn't grow up with a lot of music and, you know, different culture and stuff like that. Yeah. So I was like, I need to know what's cool, and then I need to buy that CD and then listen to it and then look up the lyrics and then be able to sing along with other cool people, and then I'll be cool. Yeah.
So it's
very relatable.
Yeah. To feel like we're accepted.
You were just naturally cool.
You were just cool.
You were the one setting the tone.
That's fine.
You forced us to play video games and listen to music.
Yeah. You probably would have bullied me.
I see where we're going. Okay. Hey, I didn't love Smash Bros. Either, okay?
Neither.
I'm part of the conversation too.
Probably just good at it anyways, though.
I am pretty good at it.
Yeah, I would rent video games from Blockbuster too. Remember when you could do that?
Yeah.
That was such a good time.
Yeah. The experience of just going to Blockbuster is a memory in and of itself.
It is one of the most magical experiences.
But I really like the idea of like being able to like play a game for a bit without having to spend all that money on it, you know, and like just testing it out and seeing like if you liked it or not.
Yeah, it's kind of like having a time limit on it, knowing that I could only play it made it so much more special.
Yeah,
it's a limited resource, right?
Yeah,
limited a dish. Yeah.
But nowadays, you just buy a game and you're like, I don't know, I guess I'll play it.
I guess I'll play that.
And then
because I bought it, so I guess I should.
It's on your platform for forever.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, my favorite game when I was a kid, that I would call a cozy game, I never owned. I only ever rented it from Blockbuster. I don't know why. I want to go back and ask my kid self, like, why didn't you ask for this for
you racked up $700
Christmas or something? Yeah, like it would have been so much less expensive
10 times over
for my parents to just buy it for me.
I think we all had games like that where we just kept renting over and over.
Sure.
But it was like if you asked me like what was your favorite game as a kid, it's that game. It was Simpsons Road Rage.
Oh, interesting.
I remember that game.
Great.
Yeah.
I do love a driving game, and we can get into more of like what I like in a game and why, but like. I can't believe I never actually owned it.
Why did you like that
wild.
one?
Yeah, because even from the name, you would think that's stressful.
You would think that's stressful. I actually do really like driving games. And there were time limits in that one, but I think because I was forcing myself to play other games like Super Smash Brothers or like more like standard like RPG type games. I don't even remember what they were, honestly. Like I feel like I've like trauma suppressed a lot of it because I just like didn't enjoy it. And there were time limits in it, but there was parts of it that were just kind of driving around in Springfield and like as different characters. I liked being Lisa Simpson because she's an icon and I identified with her so much as a kid. And there was maps involved. I really like a map in a game. In life, in general, I think it's something where I reach that kind of flow state that us neurodivergent folks can get into when we like hyper focus on something. But like for example, I love navigating like an airport or like a new city's like transit system or something like that. Like it really makes me feel alive. And so I was talking with my counselor at our last session about, you know, when I am traveling, I feel like a different person. Like I feel like I have so much more energy. I have so much more to give. I do so much more in a day. And I think like part of that is the ADHD, like everything is new and it's just like feeding all of this energy. Dopamine, reward, and then I crash when I get back because of the autism. It was like there was no routine and then I'm not well anymore. And so it's on the give and take. But I was like, I think that's like missing from my life a lot. Like I know Calgary so well, like the back of my hand. You know what I mean? There's no, which isn't necessarily true. I say this a lot of like, I don't know, I know everything in Calgary. Like nothing surprises me anymore. Corey, my partner, has made it his goal to be like, I'm going to show you stuff in the city that you've never seen before. And bless him, he's doing that. And like gives me a chance to like navigate it. Like we did a date a few weeks ago. We went to Pascapoo Ridge Park. Never been there. It's over by COP. Okay. And there's all of these random things to find in it. So there's like these old cars from like the 1940s that got abandoned in this park they're just letting nature reclaim. Like no one cleaned it. It
sounds like Last of Us.
It's spooky.
That's so cool.
It's so spooky. It's like garbage essentially, but it's like spooky garbage. And there's
spooky
like
garbage.
there's like a big rock. It's one of the like same rocks that like got deposited by the big glacier, like the Okotoks big rock. And there's
was it spooky?
No.
Just the garbage is spooky.
And there's this like big Buddhist shrine monument type thing. Like there's all of this like random stuff in this park. And he's like, okay, we're going to go there and you're going to find it. And like, here's a map. And like, that's what I need.
So that navigation
thing, it really does something for me. I don't know if it's the like, there's something autistic about it for sure. Like
well, that's what I was going to ask. Is it more the like which side of the ADHD? Because there's a dopamine piece I could see being
for
more
sure.
the ADHD.
It's probably both.
But maybe there's I don't know.
But there's like some sort of like I don't know. Us autistic people, we love like a transportation, you know, trains.
That's such a common.
We love the like, and I do love a train, and I think I don't know. It's about like. I like the way things work and come together. It's very much so like there's details that build up into a bigger picture and then I can like navigate within that. And there's something about that just feels really good. And I'm like better at it than other people somewhat naturally. And I don't know what that is or why, because like I've just always been like that. Like I almost miss the MapQuest days.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Do you remember printing out all the directions?
I know.
But I wouldn't. I would just memorize it.
I did like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I would do that too.
I would just memorize it,
like,
and then just like navigate around and stuff, or like just like looking at like a physical map.
My favorite thing would be find a landmark. And then be like, okay, I'm going to go from landmark to landmark, not intersection to intersection.
Oh, nice.
So like, okay, I got to drive past this McDonald's and then the church is going to come up and then this. And then you just like visualize it based on the landmarks, which is...
I'm getting weird just talking about that.
So there are so many games that have extensive maps stuff too. So there's things like Skyrim, but then you're adventuring as an individual, or things like Age of Empires or Civilization and games where you're trying to take over the map. Are any of those games interesting to you?
No, those fine because of the competitive aspect. I think it makes it really stressful for me. But there was something about like road rage, for example, in The Simpsons, where it's just like you're like navigating around the town, like doing errands and stuff. That it was very low stress, low pressure, but was still like sort of igniting that kind of navigational interest.
Yeah.
There's one I play currently that actually has been so good also for, speaking of another mental health issue, was like workplace burnout. When I was feeling really burnt out at work, it was a game that would help me sort of transition after work, because transitions are really big for me too. I find it really hard to transition between tasks, and having a transitional task, it can really help. And this was one at the time that was so good. I need to get back to it. Where it's called Lake, and it's truly extremely cozy game by its like very definition. Like there is nothing exciting about it, I think, to like the average person, or like to someone that plays like normal video games. But like it's this like 1980s small town Oregon, and this woman who works like the high powered job in the city is coming to take over her dad's position as like the mail carrier in the like small town while he goes on vacation to Florida. And that's literally like the game, is just driving around in this town and delivering mail. And so you get like an address, and you have to find the address, and you have to deliver it. And then sometimes, you know, there's
perfect game for you.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
Why did you find that helped
low-key,
you?
I was like, should I be a mail carrier? Like, I just like, should I completely change careers?
Why did you find that helped you with transitions? What was it about that game, do you think?
Because I think because it allowed me to engage in this like interest of mine of the navigation, and because it was just so like, it was so straightforward, and like so much of life is so complicated. And like,
that's true.
I would be at work, and like, you know, I work a corporate job, and that's not known to be super friendly environment for my brain. And I think where I'm working now, like, has done a really good job of being accommodating to me, but there's just like only so far that you can really take that in the corporate environment. And so I am pretty much on overthink mode all the time, trying to sort of like mask and compensate for my areas that like aren't designed for this world, but then also you know, I found ways to utilize my strengths in that world, and sometimes I go too far, I go too hard, I take it too seriously. That's like a danger, I think, with the way that my brain is organized, for sure. And I leave work, and it's just like whirring sound up in my brain, like hot laptop whirring, right? And I'm still going. I find it hard to stop that.
Yeah.
And so I'm still thinking about stuff, and like, you know, taking out my phone and sending myself like quick little emails to be like, oh, and this, oh, and this, and this.
Don't forget this. Don't
forget this. And it's like, I need something to tell me to just like shut that off and like
focus on one thing.
Life.
Yeah.
So that I'm not, so I can be like present and not still like, and also that is what can contribute to burnout for me, for sure, is just like always having that on. Right. Yeah. And so just entering this world of like 1980s small town Oregon and delivering mail.
Does sound pleasant.
Yeah.
And she
so
like,
peaceful.
You know, there's like a part where she has to take like a cat to the vet. I love that. Like for her neighbor lady.
Yeah. Is there any losing? Like, is there a fail state?
No, but there are like, you can kind of choose your own adventure.
Okay. So there's like a freedom, but there isn't pressure.
There's no pressure.
Yeah.
No. And so like she reconnects with her childhood best friend, and it's like, you can kind of choose, are they going to reconnect? Are they going to fight?
Ooh, yeah.
There's like the video store lady who like, are we flirting? Is that what's happening right now? And then it's like, oh, we could be, you know? So like, there's like that fun thing. You can kind of start to choose, like you can choose whether or not to like start a relationship
a little bit like
there.
Sims and
Yeah. Kind of, but like very structured. I do find like Sims, it's not that I find it stressful to play. I just like, I don't, because of the lack of structure.
It's too
within
open-ended.
It's too open-ended.
Yeah.
I just don't know what to do. And then I get bored.
Yeah.
I like to create the like little families, and I like to make the house, and then I abandon them.
Right.
I'm
done
forever.
Leave them.
I never
I
actually
leave them
like
to
play it.
Die of dysentery.
The game to me is making the families and making the houses.
The creation part.
Yeah. And then you're on your own.
Over.
Sorry. Because there's just no there needs to be something, you know. You got to give me something.
Yeah, you're a very hands-off god in The Sims. You create, and then
I'm out.
Like
Yeah.
our world, maybe.
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
Can I ask a question? And you don't have to answer this, but you've talked about getting diagnosed later in life.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if you could share your journey about that, because
Absolutely.
I don't even know if a lot
I
of
love
people
talking
know you
about
can
that.
get diagnosed later in life.
You sure can,
Yeah.
because they miss you is what happens. Yeah, it's not that I didn't have it from birth. It's just that they didn't know. And, you know, it's a failure of not knowing enough about it and not researching enough about it, which happens with many diseases, right? And like, and mental health conditions too. Like, that's gone through so many different iterations and changes within the last 100 years in terms of our understanding. But I think especially around how it presents for females can be very different. I'm not Sheldon Cooper, you know, I'm not sort of those stereotypical presentations of autism that you would necessarily expect, or ADHD that you would expect, right? Like, I wasn't the kid in class that was being super disruptive, which I think is often what they think of with ADHD, is like a little boy that like is being the class clown, right?
That was me.
And that's you. Yeah.
You were the textbook
stereotypical
I know,
presentation.
kicked out all the time.
And the way that my symptoms showed up were very different than that, because it is a spectrum, and the internal experience can be very similar, but I think the diagnostic criteria in the DSM are often about how it presents externally, how
Right.
other people are experiencing it,
Right.
versus how the experience feels in here. And so I think that is a lot of the reason that I got missed. And also, I think ADHD is very complicated. I sort of mentioned earlier too, in the ways that they can mask each other. So, you know, say if I just had ADHD, I might have struggled in school a little bit more. The autism wouldn't let me, right? Like, I, you know, still had the same like procrastination symptoms that you would see in ADHD, but I would get it done, and I would get it done so well because my autism would not allow anything else.
Right.
So I would beat myself mercilessly into being a productive member of society, into focusing, into being able to produce something. But I still needed it to be last minute and urgent in order to do it, right? So it would create a lot of internal struggle in me that I think a lot of people really didn't see. And I kept it pretty under wraps to, not to blame myself, not to victim blame, but also just to sort of help explain things. I thought that this is pretty much how it went for everybody, right? I think in my family, there's quite a lot of neurodivergence. And so I would look around and see like maybe their more intimate experiences that I was seeing. And I'm being like, okay, so this is fine. This is just how it goes, right?
This is normal.
This is just how it works.
Does it.
Yeah. And also I felt a lot of shame around it, and like just a lot of shame around being different. As much as I tried to hide everything that was going on for me and all these symptoms that I was experiencing, I think that the other kids picked up on it. Like I mentioned, getting bullied a lot, right? Like I think they felt something was off, right? And it wasn't like, it wasn't something that like you could just look at that and be like, oh, well, because she has autism and ADHD. It was just something that was like felt in the air, that it was just
intangible.
There was this
difference.
intangible difference between me and the other kids and how I related to them socially. But there was nothing that sort of really pointed it out, right? Like it wasn't that like, oh, well, Mira doesn't make eye contact. Well, Mira makes eye contact. She's figured out that you got to do that. Right. But maybe she's a little weird about it. So it's not like you can say that like, oh, she doesn't make eye contact, because she does, but there's something about it that the other kids are like, I don't like it. Right. Like, you know, so I think like I tried to hide so much of it, and I was masking so hard that I think that also contributed to things. And so one way like the autism would mask the ADHD with making sure that I got things done on time, that I was together, and that I was following the rules, right? Like I love structure. I love rules. I thrive within that system. My autism does. And so I would never dare speak out of turn in class because that's not the rule. I really, really want to, right?
Yeah.
And like
so two parts.
Right. But like, I wouldn't do it. And then in the same respect, I think ADHD did a lot of heavy lifting, masking the autism socially,
Right.
because, you know, I can talk.
Yeah.
I can talk. I've been doing it, right? And I think a lot of that is like the ADHD. Like I've got constant like hyperactivity going on up here, right?
Yeah.
So if I can just like unleash, and it I would say too, I get something out of the interaction of talking to people that I think I've seen with other autistic people that I know that don't have ADHD. They don't necessarily get that. And so there was something in it for me in a different way. There was a bit more, I guess, social motivation caused by the ADHD aspect. So then like put those two together and it's like, you know, there's this whole world going on in here of me struggling with all of these pieces and masking them and using each other to mask them, to seem like a somewhat, hopefully normal human being that people were still like, I don't buy it, you know, but you know, when I got to high school, I got better at it. But, I do think that's partly why I fell in love with acting too, is because it gave me this way to connect with people, where there was a script and I didn't really have to think about it.
It makes a lot of sense.
But it still gave me that like, that social feedback that I wanted, but without any of the like stress around the social aspects of it. I didn't write the script this time. I didn't have to write it. Whew.
And it's contained, you know? Right? It's structured.
Contained, it's
structured interaction. You do it for the 2 hours of the play, or you do it for your scene on camera, but you don't
There's no consequences.
And you don't need to ever interact after that if you don't want to. You know, it's actually interesting. A lot of people think acting is like an extrovert's game. Like you got to be blah, 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 all the time. But it's really like some of the best actors are quiet, come in, do their scene, turn it off, and then turn it off and then just walk away. Yeah. I wanted to ask what motivated you to get a diagnosis though. Yeah. And if you felt like having a label. Well, no. That was great. That was fantastic. But did getting a label help? Because some people may feel like, all right. Next question.
That's a resounding positive response.
It really did. And I know that there's, you know, I want to be sensitive to the fact that like I know a lot of people don't feel that way. Yeah. And that, you know, they don't like labels and I think that everybody's journey is different and all power to you. But for me specifically, it helps so much just to have an explanation. And I think because of the way that my brain works, I really like an explanation. I really like knowing how things work. I really like knowing how people work, right? Which is how I've found myself in both the careers of acting and mental health, because human behavior is so interesting to me. I think even just like as an autistic person looking at that and being like, wow, why do we behave and experience the world so differently? And like, you know, what are all of these like scripts and things that people have that like I never got? Like, what is that? You know, there's a curiosity there. And I think I'm curious about how other people work, but I'm curious about how I work too. And I would call that like a special interest for me, is like just understanding that. And so from that perspective, it's like, ooh, juicy. This is more information about who I am, like, and why I operate the way that I do. This is fantastic. But it's also an explanation, and I think has been so healing in terms of a lot of that shame that I felt as a kid. When you're a kid and other people are the constant feedback that you're receiving from your peer group is that there's something wrong with you, you do internalize that. Yeah. I had a really lovely family that really loved me a lot, just the way that I was. And they were so wonderful and so supportive, but also they didn't really know that a lot of that was happening, because I was ashamed that it was happening, because as a kid, you're like, yeah, there must be something wrong with me then. Right. I think it's also even a way of feeling somewhat in control of that situation, is by blaming oneself, right? Like that's a very common response, I think, even as a kid to any sort of trauma, is like, well, this must be my fault. And so knowing now that like, oh, that like intangible thing that like other kids felt that I was different and that made me a target, there's a name for it, and it's not you suck. Right?
Could you imagine though?
Yeah.
And the DSM diagnosis
Is that
you suck.
You suck.
Yeah.
Sorry
to say it.
You suckism.
Yeah.
It's on a spectrum.
USD. Or no. Yeah.
Why?
YSD?
Why is
Yeah. Whoops. But yeah, it was really nice to have words to put to what was going on for me. And then even then, I guess, because I still very much so struggle with my mental health. And, you know, I was told that it would get better, and it didn't, right? Things didn't get better for me.
pre-diagnosis?
No. Like, just like in terms of, being a kid and being like, oh, things get better. Like, I really struggled with my mental health in my teens. And then they didn't, right? And it was like, why, right? Like, my 20s were really, really hard. For me, I think, especially because I was out of the structure of like school. I was put into like corporate environment that's just not as good for me. I was having to navigate relationships and all of these things without any of this like really valid information about myself. And I was still trying to square peg round hole my existence, right? Like, so many decisions that I've made in my life have been based around trying to do what I thought was expected of me, and trying to fit into this sort of like neurotypical mold that I think I even had for myself, right? And that was a really hard thing to give up when I got my diagnoses, was like, I'm never going to be this person that I've been trying to be. And that was a lot to grieve. And, you know, you feel that sense of like limitation, I suppose. But as we know, being creatives, limitations breed creativity. Right? And I don't think that they're a bad thing. That's us.
Yeah,
We're the creatives here. Yeah.
I'm the suit.
Yeah, you're
Right?
pin up.
You play music.
Creative.
He's pretty
Why do you
creative.
Leaving me out.
He's very creative.
I'm not. That's Mira's been doing it. She goes like this.
I'm sorry. It's because ADHD and also
Yeah.
acting.
And acting.
There's just a lot.
That's
There's
right.
a lot of common ground here.
Yeah.
You're so creative.
You're a very creative
Thanks.
person.
I
Yeah.
wasn't
Do you
fishing
know
for
that-
I know, but
Do you agree that limitations breed
Yes, I do,
creativity? And I
actually.
think
Yeah.
that, you know, by trying to, I think as millennials too, we were very much so raised with like, you can do anything you want, right? And then so I tried that, and it wasn't going the way that I expected it to go. And it made me again feel like something was wrong with me, because I was just trying to not have these limitations. And so once I sort of finished that grieving process and let go of that person that I was trying to be, I could just become who I was. And like, that is so freeing, right?
Yeah.
I know, right?
let go
Like,
who you're trying to be.
Yeah,
So
well-
that you can be who you
so I can be
Are?
who I am. And
did
it
it.
turns out like
Summed it
she's
up.
pretty cool, right?
She
Like,
is cool.
Yeah.
She's awesome.
We like you.
And I like me too for the first time in my life. Like, and I would credit like that, like getting those diagnoses as part of that process, because I think that I needed words to put to what was going on for me. I needed to realize I have weaknesses, and that's okay. Like, and there's nothing wrong with me. I don't have to overcompensate for those. I can just acknowledge that, and I can see really clearly where my strengths are and lean into that, and like design a life for me that was like more made for me, instead of trying to be something that I'm not, right? And I think having the language around it made it okay to not be who I thought I was supposed to be, because it's like, oh no, like there's this whole community of us too, right? I think that's been really helpful, of like, there are other ADHD people. Some of them exist in my family, and they're people that I really enjoy and really love and appreciate. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with us. We're just different. And so I need to lean into that instead of trying to be the same, because I was like actively ruining my mental health by doing so, right? By trying to play Super Smash Brothers all day to try to get better at it.
It's not for you.
I've
Yeah.
shaved years off of my life from like engaging my fight or flight all day for no reason,
Yeah.
right?
It's a
Like,
good-
and my whole life has been an exercise in that up until this point. And so there is just so much like freedom, I think, that has come to me from having those labels. I can just be a cozy gamer. That's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, you
These
can.
games speak to something that like helps me in who I am, and I don't have to be like the other kids that are playing like these. I don't have to be like my partner who's playing like the really stressful games, right? I can just watch him do that and feel stressed about it and leave. That's not true, actually. I really like the noises, video game noises.
Oh, interesting.
I actually will ask him like, hey, can you play video games if I have to like study or work? Because I really like the sort of repetitive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Good. That was good. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
They're like repetitive, but they're not.
Grenade! It's just Mira in the background. This
is the best.
This is amazing. You killed my
There's usually like some sort of music. There's great music.
Yeah, there is.
There's great music.
And
There's little
loops.
sound effects.
Yeah.
It loops, but
Yeah.
like it's enough to stay like it's like a little bit stimulating. But yeah, but literally
I'll
like
provide the backgrounds for this conversation.
Thank
Go. You two keep
it'll help me
talking, okay?
focus. I'm locked in now. Like between
What are you
Vivance
gonna do, Snake?
and Adolyn making
Yeah.
sounds,
This is
I am
great.
locked in.
Play Russian roulette.
Oh, that makes sense though. So Lake and Simpsons Hit and Run. No, Simpsons Road Rage.
Yeah.
Road
Rage.
Simpsons
Hit and Run.
No, I think there's a game called Simpsons Hit and
I also
Run.
want to give a shout out to Jenny Leclue. That probably is my favorite video
Jenny
game of
Leclue.
all
Okay.
time.
Yeah, say more about that. I don't know if this is a
Jenny
well-known game.
Leclue. Okay, so I had this idea of like, okay, so I really love like escape rooms because I
Yeah, me
fancy
too.
myself
Fantastic. We're really
Let's-
good
a
at escape rooms,
detective.
by the way.
Can we do an escape room?
We should
together?
do one right now.
Okay.
Screw this.
Yeah, like-
Goodbye,
This will be the episode.
Get
I
this
love
thing
escape
out of my
rooms.
face.
I love Nancy Drew games. Do you ever play that? I
Um,
feel like you should play the Nancy Drew games.
There's Nancy Drew games.
You have, oh, Mira, I'm going to blow your mind. They've got maps. You travel around. You solve mysteries. There's no time limit. There's usually at the end, there's a little bit of a stressful thing because you're finally about to solve the mystery and then
I can
there's
handle a
some sort of
little
danger.
stress. Yeah.
But for the most part, you're just exploring Vienna or, Berlin or whatever. She travels the world and yeah.
He's been telling me
so,
for years to play these
they're
games.
so calming. Like they're cozy
I need it.
games for
I
me.
need it. I need
They're
it.
puzzles.
Yeah.
They're fun. They're interesting.
Okay. So I like an escape room too, except
Yeah.
for the time limit thing. You know how I feel.
I know, it's the worst.
And the social dynamics often
Ah.
are really hard for me.
So I need a dream
So
team.
you guys
I
would
need a
be
team that works together.
fine because I've known you for precisely too long and I can be myself around you, so it's fine. But like a work mandated escape
those
game,
are the worst. Team building escape rooms.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I'm out. Like as soon as we're in there, like I can't focus. Because there's too much, like I can't navigate this socially and also play the game at the same time. That's too much work. I want to just play the game, but like, and people get like snippy with each other. I shut
Yeah, there's
all the way down.
There's a whole dynamic thing. That
Yeah,
happens,
and I can't do it. And so then I was like, well, there's got to be video games like Nancy Drew, apparently, that sort of give me that experience of being able to do an escape room, without perhaps a time limit and without these like social dynamics. And so I found Jenny Leclue, and she is this cute little redhead with glasses who is like
Wait a minute.
belligerent.
Did you
Yeah.
make this
Did
game?
you? Isn't it based
Did
on
I
you?
write this game?
Yeah.
And she's a detective, but she's like this like teenager, and she's like
Nice. Classic.
belligerent, like socially a nightmare. Like she's so like she just speaks her mind, and like it's one of the things where you can sort of choose what she says in every
Yeah, yeah.
situation. I always choose the most belligerent thing that she
course
could
you
say.
do.
Yeah, and so it kind of I think also gets that out of me too, because like I do have that like autism thing where like I am a little mean, but like
You just say what's on your mind. You're blunt.
I may or may not have done that a few times today, but I've worked
Yeah.
it into as part of my charm occasionally, and especially with people that I like know and can feel safe to like razz a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So I really love having that dynamic with people because it kind of gets that out of me a little bit, where I get to be kind of blunt and just say what's on my mind.
Yeah. So Jenny does this.
Jenny Leclue.
Jenny does this in a way that's like not that too. She's just like cuts straight through the social niceties and goes directly towards the most awful thing you could say. And I'm like, I love this. But then it's like little puzzles that you get to solve.
With no time limit.
There's no time limit, but also there's like this sort of greater mystery that's happening that you sort of have to put together
Exactly
different
what I was gonna
clues to
ask.
figure out like what's going on here.
You're
Kind of a
in.
new
And,
game.
like-
You're in.
I'm sold. What's platform is it on?
It's on Switch, but I think Steam probably also too.
great.
I'm waiting patiently for the sequel. It's supposed to be coming out. Jenny Leclue. Yeah,
It's
I
right there,
know.
right there.
Isn't it so
Of course
good?
it was. Yeah.
But yeah, it speaks to so many. I think too, like what's good about it is that something like Lake, it's just not challenging at all, which is fine.
Yeah.
That's what I need sometimes.
Yeah.
Jenny the Clue is challenging, but in a very specific way, and one that plays to my strengths, right? If we're talking about playing to strengths, instead of forcing myself to not do that, right? Like dexterity is not my strength. Putting together puzzles and clues and stuff, like it does, like, it makes me feel good about myself too, because I know that actually was complex.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that, like, there was a part of that like was challenging, and I was able to overcome that challenge. And it's one that like actually speaks to where my strengths lie, which is very much so. And this is common for like autistic brains as well, is this sort of bottom up style thinking of, putting together details and like being very detail oriented and having every single one of those things and being able to put that together to make a big picture or a big conclusion. Like that is 100% how my brain works. I'm both a detail oriented and big picture person, but I do have to have the details to build up to get to that big picture place. Right. And so it really allows me to do that. I'm pretty sure I should also be a private eye. I don't know. Video games are really...
The takeaway from this.
Yeah, you should be Jenny the Clue. I'm trying to think of a name that would make sense.
You're trying to think
Mira.
of a pun, aren't you?
No, I'm trying to think of like a Mira.
Yeah.
Mirror-based one?
Yeah, but
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
there's no clue.
That does sound good. Okay, now what about Stardew Valley? Because I feel like this is one of those popular games that lots of people would think of as a cozy game.
As a cozy game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you find that a cozy
big on
game?
on my Cozy Gamers Facebook group.
Yeah.
I have not actually played Stardew Valley. My understanding is it's a Animal Crossing adjacent.
Yeah,
Is that the
very
idea?
similar. You have like your
Yeah.
crop that you're managing. And
Yeah. Too
they're-
unstructured.
Yeah.
But Animal Crossing was too unstructured for me. I tried it.
Interesting. Okay.
Got bored. And so I haven't tried Stardew Valley for that simple reason. I do like a story flow where like, yeah, maybe you have choices, but like not very many.
Right.
You know?
You don't want it to be too open.
I don't want it to be too
Yeah.
open. Yeah. And in
Interesting.
fact,
Okay.
if there are too many choices, like even with Lake, I want to go back and play it and make all different choices because like, I don't know, there's something about me that I want to know every potential possible outcome.
Yeah.
Right. And
yeah.
then so if
I can understand that one.
if there's a game where
Yeah.
there's just like it really is like you're building your own game, like
And it never ends. There's no overarching storyline. You're just
I
going,
can't. I can't. I'm not quite good at that, and I do think that is the ADHD probably being like I need structure in order to thrive. Like a blank page, if I'm trying to write something, is like insurmountable obstacle,
Yeah,
and
it's
like
very daunting.
it feels that adjacent for
Interesting.
me. Yeah.
So I'm aware we should probably wrap up soon. We've been going for a while, but I appreciate you sharing about your journey as well as your experience both with mental health and with video games. And it sounds like video games are not just something you enjoy, but actually have played an instrumental role in coping sometimes too. Like
100%.
transitions and
Yeah.
which I think is really cool because that's not we've talked about using video games to cope, but I think the way you've talked about using them to cope might be different than the way we talk about connection and being able to like keep us connected when he wasn't living here and whereas
that's
for
nice.
you like it makes me think, this is my therapist brain, but that transitional piece with Lake is almost like it's like a mindfulness practice.
Well, and I think too, like for like one of the ways that I'm learning is a good way for me to support my mental health as an autistic person is engaging in my special interests. And so it does, like I can't realistically after work go out and like navigate a new city's transit system. That's just not
I don't
like
quite have time for that.
that's just not really something I can manage every day.
You're not going to get like post work beers with everybody because that doesn't.
No.
Even though that's a
I can't be
social
doing
construct,
that.
it doesn't
resonate
with
it
you.
doesn't like so there is something about I think like as part of our like sort of emotional mental health hygiene is to like be able to engage in those special interests, and so like that's what I've been talking about with my counselor as well. So transition task for sure, but also a way to engage with that special interest, which is good for the TISMs.
Yeah. I love that. I think that's so cool because, I think the common thing people would say, well, it's my hobby and it's good to do my hobby. And that is true too. That's part of our mental health is to do our hobbies.
Yeah.
But just looking at it through that different lens of engaging with your special interests, I think that's really cool.
And what is a special interest if not like intense hobby?
Right. Hobby.
Yeah.
Plus.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a very like safe way to engage in those things. Like
Yeah.
I'm not going to go travel around solve mysteries as much as I
No.
would love to.
Oh, wouldn't
I'd
that
love
be
to.
It would be such a dream job.
Yeah.
But it's unrealistic. And so you have to play within the structure sometimes that you're given. And I feel like, yeah, it's really illuminating for me because we've been friends for a long time, but I never got to hear like this in depth of your story. And I'm like, yeah, that's how I think, or that helps me, or like, that's what I do. Like video games can be self-soothing too. And I play a lot of cozy games that feel cozy to me, like RPGs, because I don't want to deal with the intensity or stress of, the adrenaline that comes with that, so that I can sleep, Right.
Literally my whole day is an exercise and adrenaline.
Yeah.
Right. Like I will go into fight or flight over breakfast, right? So like I need to not engage in that sometimes.
So to kind of wrap it off, we always ask one question at the end.
Oh.
Which is, do you feel like video games are the hero or the villain when it comes to one's mental health?
To one's or my?
Well, you can say personal, or you can say in general. It's kind of up to you.
With anything, it has to be in moderation in order to be supportive to one's mental health, full stop. But I think, I know for me, certainly I have to be careful, especially if I'm engaging in a video game. Once the Vyvanse is hit, I can play that video game forever.
I finished this 180-hour game in
and
6
maybe
hours.
That's not so good for me, but I do think that ultimately, in the way that I play them now, not trying to play anything that I don't want to, just playing the video games that I do want to, has been extremely good for my mental health. Has been the hero. One might say a hero, not the hero. There have been many heroes in terms of supporting my mental health, but it could be. It's in like the Marvel cast, like it's
one of the Avengers.
It's one of the Avengers. yeah.
They're coming to
Good
see
answer.
It got like its own TV show.
For you, it's interesting because it was kind of the villain with Smash Brothers at the beginning. Like it was like a way for you to not connect.
Correct.
And then you found it. So it's almost like the hero you found.
Yeah. The villain that becomes the hero, the anti-hero.
Lived long enough to become the hero.
Yeah.
That's a reverse.
The reverse of Batman.
Yeah, exactly.
Reverse Batman.
That's good. That was good. Nice.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank
It was such an incredible
Thanks
conversation.
for having me. I hope I did okay.
You did amazing. That was really great.
You were the hero.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, it turns out my answer to that question is I'm the hero.
Nice.
Full stop.
Somehow. Yeah.
Brilliant.
We'll clip that and put it online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just I'm the hero.
Yeah.
No
That's the
context.
headline.
Yeah.
That's the soundbite that they use. Yeah. Mira Maschmeyer thinks she's a hero. Yeah.
Local Calgarian, lost in delusion.
Just me.
Well, welcome back. That was an incredible conversation with Mira.
Absolutely.
And now it's time for the post debrief.
Yeah, let's talk about what we think about her, whether we like her or not.
Yeah, exactly.
What listeners?
The red suits her.
Yeah. What viewers don't know is that she's sitting just off camera.
She is.
Yeah, so we have to say nice things.
We do.
No, I really enjoyed our conversation with Mira. I thought it was really, really interesting because cozy games it's a term that gets thrown around and it can be very, very subjective. I think different people can mean different things about it. And so Mira being able to talk about her experience of what cozy games meant and why they've been beneficial for her as a human, but also for her mental health journey, I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, I never really knew that term until today. Till I just thought games were games, and there was high octane energy games, and then there were just like
all there is.
That's all there is. And then thinking about the conversation we're gonna have, I started thinking about the games that I play that feel cozy to me.
I was going to ask when you heard that term, then cozy games, what immediately came to mind?
Like for me, it's RPG games, Final Fantasy, Chrono Trigger. I just started Sea of Stars.
Oh, I love Sea of Stars.
And do you Sea of Stars is 2 players?
They added it as an update after I played it.
Oh, because I was gonna be really upset that you didn't ask me to play with you.
No, they didn't. They
sure?
didn't have the co-op yet.
Are you sure?
I'm
gonna have to look at
sure.
it. When did you play it? What year? Huh?
When it came out.
So like,
I don't remember what year it came out.
That was not my skill testing question. So don't worry.
We should play it together though.
Well, I'm already playing it with someone else now.
Oh.
Because I figured you had already played it.
And you were going to be upset if I played it.
That's called hypocrisy.
Yeah.
And I'm guilty.
I'm Dr. Hypocrisy. Anyways, Sea of Stars.
It's a cozy game.
Yeah.
It feels
I agree.
Easy, it's simple, but it's complex enough that it's interesting, and there's just enough reward systems. And what I really realized, for me, a cozy game is a game that you can save and like milestones. So I don't know, maybe it's just the age I'm in where I'm like, I don't want to like beat the whole game in one sitting. So I don't want to feel like pressure that I have to.
You want to take your time with
but
it.
I also don't want to just like jump into the game and feel like I haven't progressed anything.
Yeah.
But like save points give you these like, oh, okay, this is a good time to stop, or I can finish after this boss. You know, like it's got these like progressive milestones, and it feels very cozy to me.
Yeah, interesting. Why do you think that feels cozy for you?
Because it gives me direction and progression and a goal to aim for, but there's no pressure to do it in a certain time limit.
Yeah.
Kind of like everything Mira was saying.
Hey,
Learned a lot about myself
weird.
today.
Interesting.
What about you? What's a cozy game for you?
Yeah, I Sea of Stars is actually a great pull, because I also think of that as a cozy game. I think sometimes I think of art style and music as part of what makes something cozy for me. So Sea of Stars being kind of a retro pixel art style, and the music that goes with that era of video games. I don't know if it's the nostalgia for me that just feels very warm, and it feels cozy to me.
Yeah.
So I think that, and again, a game that doesn't have the same pressure, you know, when I sit down and play Elden Ring and be fighting a boss for the 50th time, that's not cozy. It's
Definitely
fun.
not.
It's not cozy.
Yeah.
Whereas Sea of Stars has some challenging elements, like the real-time parrying system is pretty cool, but you can play it slow-paced. It doesn't feel like there's a race to finish it or make a ton of progress.
There's a race to save the world.
Well, there is, yeah.
But it doesn't matter to us. We can take our time.
But it has whimsy.
It
you know?
is. Yeah,
I think whimsy is cozy to me too.
Yeah.
So I think of that. I think of the open world Zelda games like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Those are cozy to me.
Yeah.
And again, I think something about the art style and the music, because the music is quite sparse and little piano stings here and there.
Yeah.
And you can kind of do whatever you want.
But see, I find Zelda stressful because of that. It's too big.
Yeah.
And there's no milestones really. Like you can do so much, and then you're like, did I progress the game? I don't even know.
Right.
Is this what's it called, temples?
Yeah.
I'm like, do I have to just go around getting all the temples now, or do I go straight to Ganondorf, and do I try to go towards, like, it's just too many options.
That freedom isn't cozy for you.
No, it stresses me out. That's why I've never been able to beat those games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you find, so thinking about that term now, do you use, or have you used cozy games, even if you haven't called them that, to benefit your mental health?
I think so. Yeah, absolutely. I think we talked about a couple of games in one of our other podcasts, like Journey and Flower. And
oh yeah.
there's also a music game. It's got ambiance, and I remember feeling calm playing those games. I think it's interesting because I also go back to games that I just kind of want to replay a bit because it's familiar. I don't know if you do this.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. Yeah, sometimes like the replay of a game, even if it wasn't cozy the first time.
Yeah.
There's something cozy about it
cozy
because
now.
it's predictable. I know what's coming. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, something that really struck me in our conversation with Mira was when she was talking about playing that game Lake as a transition from work and coming home. And we talked about a little bit about it briefly, but it makes me think of when I talk about mindfulness with people, that one of the biggest, there's lots of ways you can practice mindfulness, but the whole point of it is being able to focus your mind on one thing. Because
being present in the moment, right, without judgment.
Because the rest of your mind can rest when you can do that.
Exactly.
And for some people, it's the more traditional ways of meditation, because that is just a breath meditation. You're just focusing on your breathing. That's all you're doing. You're trying to hold your attention there. But I think for what I've learned in doing therapy is for a lot of people, they need is a strong word, but it's helpful to have something to facilitate that mindfulness. And I think especially when I've worked with people with some form of neurodivergence, that's the piece. And like I've worked with lots of ADHD clients, and they say sitting still for a meditation, it's not going to happen. And so figuring out another form of doing that mindfulness. And so in this case, having a video game be that, I'm sure I've thought of video games as mindfulness before, but that was such a specific use of it, where it's the way she was describing it. It helps her put her mind on one thing that's predictable, has structure, gives some reward. Like really that is practicing mindfulness, but it's the video game is acting as an agent to facilitate that mindfulness, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of I was thinking about it too when she was talking about how there's just not, like, some things get too hard, some things they're too easy. And we even mentioned it, like a little customization in the difficulty of games. I wonder if this is like a new avenue of video game development where it's like, we should be maybe researching neurodivergency and asking them, like, what kind of games help you? And then go, can we either add these aspects in the game, Or can we make specific games like this? So we talked about, you know, one of our interests in this podcast was like, what are specific games that actually help with mental health? And I don't know if Lake was made specifically for that purpose, but it obviously is serving that purpose. And that's kind of cool. Like that would be a great area to research and be like, oh, okay, these games improve these mental health conditions for these XYZ reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be really cool. And I think that's the thing that I loved about our conversation with Mira is just hearing that perspective. Because, you know, I would think of a game, even if I hadn't heard of Lake before that, but even if I had and played it, I might think of it as, oh, that's a relaxing game. It's beneficial to my mental health because it's relaxing. But the very specific ways that it was beneficial for her mental health and how it might be beneficial for other people with neurodivergence,
Totally,
I think is something I hadn't thought about. It was really interesting.
You know, we had a conversation with Keith, and his desire was to make a game that helps supported individuals with mental health, and he wanted to actually put it in the game design.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, but this is part of the game design in some ways. You know, what was the other game that Mira mentioned? Was it Lake, the one where you go through mailing?
Yeah,
that one's, and then Jenny Leclue.
Right.
You know, like.
Which you're just itching to go play.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to go buy it right after this. But for the same reasons why I feel like Nancy Drew was self-soothing in some ways. Like I enjoy puzzles without the stress of having to do it within an escape room.
Yeah.
And I like a little mystery, which rewards the dopamine centers for the ADHD. I'm like, oh, these game designs exist in there. And what's cool about games like Nancy Drew and I'm guessing Jenny Leclue is that they're finite, they finish. So unlike games like Overwatch or Rocket League, which they just keep hacking that dopamine circuit, which makes you want to keep playing again, you can actually set it away. You can be like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Which feels like a healthier interaction with the game.
Yeah. That's a good point. I hadn't thought about that. That maybe it just in the virtue of the actual game design fosters a healthier relationship with that reward cycle.
Yeah, maybe games are meant to end at some point, like you've accomplished the goal.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's neat to think about. But yeah, it has me reflecting on how I have used games or specifically chosen games, even if maybe I hadn't been thinking of it with the term cozy games. But I do, especially as I've gotten older and had more stress in my life. I think I do actively make that choice sometimes where sometimes
your cozy games like Alan Wake.
Oh, I love that game.
Stressful day.
I was playing that last night a little bit.
I knew you were. You're like, I'm going to go to bed right after this. How do you do that?
Well, I did play
there.
a little spooky section, and I was like, why am I doing this?
And then you went to bed?
Then I played another game after it for a little bit.
Needed a
I think
little
I had to
palate
de-escalate.
cleanser.
Yeah. But I do, depending, there have been days where I feel like I've used all my cognitive faculties at work, parenting, whatever it is, and then the only game that I feel like my system wants to play is something like Mario, where I just want to play a simple side scroller with fun whimsy and bright colors, and that serves a certain purpose for me.
Have you, and you don't have to answer this.
I'm nervous.
Have you ever used games destructively, though? Where you felt sad or angry or something like that, and you're like, I'm going to use this game to process, and maybe it's not so great.
Interesting. Like intentionally.
Like, because cozy is like the opposite. You're trying to find some self-soothing, but you find like sometimes, you know, we all have self-destructive tendencies. Sometimes I've been down and I'm like, I'm going to eat a pint of ice cream. And I'm like, I know this isn't good for me. You know?
For sure. I've done that with food.
Yeah, exactly. But have you done it with games?
That's a good question. I don't know if I have intentionally. Like we've talked on previous episodes, like the gaming addiction episode, that certainly I've had unhealthy relationships with games at different points. But I don't know that I've intentionally gone into it of like I'm in a sad state of mind and I just want to dig into that. I'll do that with music sometimes. I think people talk about that. I just want to throw myself a bit of a pity party, and not that that's always bad.
No. It's a good way to process.
Yeah. But certainly there have been times I've done that with music, and maybe I've kept myself in a bit of a cycle that I didn't need to be. I don't know that I have with games. Have you?
I'm trying to think of it. I think as a kid, I did more without being aware of my emotions.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm going to go play Street Fighter.
Right.
I'm just like angry. Like, you know, or
this will help me get my anger out.
Yeah, exactly.
Throwing the controller across.
Like, I guess in some ways, like if I've had a frustrating day, I'll want to play a competitive game. And then when I win, I feel better about the day. I'm like, at least I did that.
Yeah.
At least I beat those people in Rocket League or something like that, which is probably not a healthy way to cope with like a frustrating day, because then you just kind of go to bed also frustrated. Or if you lose, then you got to go, well, I need to play one more game. I can't end on a loss. So then it's a cycle. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
But mostly, no, it's mostly been in the last, I would say, like many years, just quite cozy games. Like I don't like competitive games anymore.
Yeah.
Too much.
I think it's more, I more have been destructive with it when I've been unintentional with how I'm gaming. So if I'm not thinking about what state of mind am I in, where are my emotions at, and then I play a game that just makes me more angry or frustrated.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just grumpy city for the rest of the day.
What did you think about in your expertise getting a diagnosis later in life? Because I think it's important to touch on. I think it was very awesome of Mira to share her like mental health journey with such vulnerability. Like, so that's the coolest thing we get to do is like listen to people talk about this stuff and then come out and say what are some positive things that have happened. But she talked about how diagnosis isn't for everybody. But in your experience, do you feel like, hey, like it's actually probably a good thing to get because you get more support or you get a community, or do you feel like it is just an individual thing and it's really hard to, you can't recommend it to anybody?
Yeah, probably more that. The classic, it depends. But it does. It depends on the person. It depends on the context. It depends on what the diagnosis is. I think more commonly I've heard from clients and people in my personal life, like Mira was saying, with something like autism or ADHD. I would say more often than not, people find it helpful to get the diagnosis to at the very least have the explanation to understand, this is what's happening for me. I've heard that a lot. I think for other diagnoses, it can be a mixed bag. And it just really depends. The conversation I have with clients is just looking at the pros and cons of what would you get out of it? And are there any potential risks? There are kind of some logistical risks sometimes you have to think about too. Is there can be a identity risk of do you want this label, and can there be, some people find the label helpful, other people struggle with it. Sometimes things like a diagnosis can affect like health insurance, life insurance, like those kind of things.
Which it shouldn't.
It shouldn't. It sucks.
Which it shouldn't.
But it's a reality.
The system
right
is rigged
now,
against you,
100%.
which sucks.
But then talking about some of the pros, if it can help you understand yourself better, if you know what's going on for you, that can sometimes point you to certain supports. But it depends. Sometimes people are already accessing the supports they need, and so they decide, I don't need the official label. I'm getting the help I need. I think especially as adults, it's, I don't know if I should say easier, but people I've worked with find they can find supports even without a diagnosis. More and more these days.
You have more agency as an adult.
Yeah, there's some supports that can be gate-kept behind a diagnosis. They're trying to do less of that, especially with things like autism. But as a kid, there's a lot more supports like accommodations throughout school that a diagnosis can really help with.
100%.
Yeah, it really depends. But it is becoming a pretty common thing, people getting diagnosed later in life, just because either, like Mira talked about, it gets missed for all these many, many reasons. I find parents often, because their kids are getting assessed, and then they're sitting there saying, so that's not normal? That's not how other people think? Because that's how I think.
Where did that come from?
And then they get the diagnosis. It's interesting.
Yeah. No, that was really well said. Thank you. Yeah. I think it's important to recognize that like it's never too late to reinvent yourself.
Absolutely.
And sometimes labels can be freeing, which is sometimes a stigma around like, I don't want to be labeled, I'm going to be put in a box. And it's like actually kind of the opposite. Like I know I got ADHD diagnosis later in life, and then it really helped me navigate support systems, medicinal interventions, and also just kind of go, because I know this, I can research something instead of going, I do this. What is it? And then Google spits out 1,000 possibilities. You're like, what? Oh, what? That means cancer?
Yeah,
like,
totally.
I'm just procrastinating. Doesn't mean I have cancer, does it? WebMD, right? Like
everything
leads to cancer. Yeah. So it helps. Definitely, I think, give you more agency over whatever thing you're trying to intervene on. So
I agree, and in therapy, sometimes it can help provide a direction for treatment. Like I think we said in one of our earlier episodes, the gaming addiction episode, like you don't need a diagnosis to get therapy, to get treatment.
No, and you shouldn't.
And lots of times, I've worked with people that we kind of suspect there might be some ADHD here happening. If they don't want to pursue an official diagnosis, we can still treat the symptoms and
Totally.
we have a direction. But there's other times where we're like, it could be these 5 different things. This is a case where getting a diagnosis might actually help direct treatment.
Yeah.
So again, it depends on kind of what is the context the question is coming up in. But yeah. Well,
That was a great combo.
absolutely. Should we end as we always do with our skill testing question?
Absolutely.
All right. You go for it. You seem very eager.
Yeah,
to
I've
ask
been
me
thinking about
yours.
this one for a long time. 5 minutes before we started shooting. Okay.
I'm ready.
Can you name a game
Yes.
with... That's it. Can you name a game?
No.
Can you name a game with a character that represents autism? Either the game creators have said this character has autism, or they're autistic coded. I'll open it up.
That's hard. That's a good question. I feel like I should be able to.
Games you've played?
Games I've played. Well, probably Mario. No. Mario. I'm racking my brain trying to run through all the games I've played. Okay, well, let me think about this. It has to be a narrative-based game, probably, to really develop the character to be able to see that.
Me no.
I'm just
No
thinking out
hints.
loud. A story-based game could be an RPG. Doesn't have to be. Okay, give me a hint.
Okay. We've played this game together.
Have we?
Online.
Online.
Yeah.
Baldur's Gate 3.
There probably is a character in Baldur's
Probably,
Gate.
yeah.
But I don't want to.
Divinity Original Sin.
Yeah, no. This was a competitive game we played online together.
Rocket League.
One of the cars has autism. Yeah, this car really likes trains.
Okay, no. What a competitive game we've played together.
Yeah, we didn't play it a lot.
Overwatch? Is it?
There's a character in Overwatch
Oh.
that has autism.
I don't even remember most of the Overwatch characters' names.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know. I'm not going to be able to answer this one.
you got close though. Yeah. You got Overwatch. You got the game. Symmetra, apparently.
Oh.
I think Symmetra came not in the first iteration. She was a character introduced afterwards.
I can't remember.
Their storyline, they have autism, and the game directors have confirmed that Symmetra has autism, which is really cool. And I
That's
think
super
Overwatch did a
interesting.
good job of trying to add different representations. They have LGBTQT and different things like that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, nice. Good
Yeah.
one.
Another game, Watch Dogs.
Oh, I haven't played Watch
I
Dogs.
haven't played it either.
Yeah.
And then apparently Link from Zelda is autistic coded
Really?
because he's silent.
Yeah.
And he has trouble communicating. And so people are arguing that he's autistic coded.
And he has special interests in his bow and arrow.
He likes to make
That's
things
interesting.
in the new ones.
Yeah.
Very particular about his machines.
yeah.
So yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that was a good one. Okay. Mine, I feel like mine's a gimme.
Oh,
Okay.
no.
It's
Now I'm
it's really
nervous.
a skill testing question about yourself.
I hate it when you say this.
Because as you have said, you are diagnosed with ADHD,
No, I wasn't. I didn't say that. Take it back.
which stands for, this is not my skill testing question, but it stands for.
Attention deficit hyperactive disorder.
Right. Now, there are 3 subtypes of ADHD.
I don't know these.
What are the 3
The three
subtypes?
subtypes of ADHD. I feel like I don't know what they're into called, but there's like a movement one where there's tactile. Is that stuff like that? No.
You're on the right track.
Yeah. There's trouble concentrating without the hyperactivity.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So the ones you just said are kind of the same thing. Yeah.
okay.
But yeah, you're right. So it's kind of just in the name. So there's hyperactive subtype, primarily hyperactive.
Okay.
There's primarily inattentive,
Inattentive. That's the one. yes.
that's
Trouble
the
concentrating,
ADD was a previous term. Now it's just looped into ADHD.
Right.
Which is primarily inattentive, and then there's combined, which is you have both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You pretty much
it was
had
good.
it
It was
though.
good. That's a good one. That was a great question.
Yeah,
That was a great
okay.
question.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
Well,
All right.
thanks for joining me as always.
Thank you.
Put her
Always
there.
A pleasure. Always a pleasure.
All right. Bye.
Bye.